we are told a simple story of human history. It begins in the dust. Primitive hunter-gatherers, living hand-to-mouth, surviving against the odds. Then, a spark. The invention of agriculture. This spark ignites civilization. Villages become towns, towns become cities. We invent the wheel, pottery, and writing. We learn to smelt bronze, then iron. We build monuments to our gods and tombs for our kings. And finally, through millennia of slow, steady progress, we arrive at us. This story is comfortable. It is logical. It is taught in every school and printed in every textbook. But this story is incomplete. Because this story, the simple, linear progression from cave to skyscraper, cannot explain this. It cannot explain this, and it absolutely cannot explain this. All over the world, etched into the very bones of our planet, is a different story. A narrative written in stone so massive, cut with such precision, and dated to an age so remote that it defies every chapter of the history we've been fed. Mainstream science calls them tombs, temples, and quarries. But the evidence, when viewed without prejudice, points to something else entirely. A megalithic code. This code isn't just a collection of random anomalies. It's a series of technological fingerprints, left behind by a civilization with knowledge we have tragically forgotten. Today, we do not ask if this civilization existed. We ask what they left behind. We investigate 5 of the most impossible megalithic sites on Earth. 5 sites that science can't explain. Our journey begins in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, at the site of Baalbek. What we see today is a ghost of Roman glory. These are the ruins of Heliopolis, one of the most magnificent temple complexes ever built by the Roman Empire. For centuries, this is all anyone saw. But the Romans, masters of concrete and the arch, are not the real mystery of Baalbek. The real mystery lies beneath their work. The Romans built their grand temples on top of a pre-existing platform. A platform constructed from stone so enormous, they dwarf anything the Romans or any other known civilization ever built. This is the Trilithon, 3 single blocks of limestone, lying side by side in the western retaining wall. Each one is over 60 feet long. Each one weighs between 800 and 1,000 tons. Let's provide some context for that number. A modern Abrams tank weighs 70 tons. A diesel locomotive weighs 120 tons. This is the equivalent of 8 locomotives, quarried, transported over a mile, and then lifted more than 20 feet into the air to be placed in a perfect, seamless wall. The official explanation? The Romans did it, using ropes, pulleys, manpower, and perhaps large cranes. But this explanation ignores a fundamental problem, not just of physics, but of logic. Why would the Romans, the inventors of efficient, modular concrete construction, suddenly revert to this brutal and impossibly difficult method for a mere foundation? But the true impossibility isn't even in the wall. It's a short walk away, in the quarry. Here, we find this, the stone of the pregnant woman. A single block of limestone, cut and dressed, but never moved. It weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. Nearby, an even larger stone was discovered, weighing over 1,600 tons. These stones shatter the Roman theory. We are looking at a quarry for a project that was never completed, a project that required moving 1,600-ton blocks, the weight of 3 Airbus, a 380S. No modern crane on Earth, without massive, specialized preparation, could lift this weight today. The idea that a Roman-era crane, powered by men and oxen, could achieve this is not just improbable, it is an engineering fantasy. The physics of manpower and rollers simply fails. The sheer compressive force would crush any wooden rollers. The friction would be insurmountable. Baalbek is our first fingerprint. It is not a question of how primitive people did this. It is a question of why an advanced civilization, capable of quarrying and moving 1,200-ton blocks, disappeared, and why the Romans built their temple on top of their sacred, unfinished work. The fingerprint is one of impossible scale and power. We leave the ancient world and travel to the roof of the new one. High in the Bolivian Andes, At an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, lies a site that looks like it was destroyed by a cosmic-level catastrophe. This is Puma Punku. The official story is that Puma Punku was built by the Tiwanaku culture, around 500 to 600 AD. But the stones themselves, they tell a very different story. The mystery here is not scale, but precision. The stones are a mix of red sandstone and gray andesite. Andesite is an incredibly hard volcanic rock, second only to diamond on the Mohs hardness scale. You cannot shape it with primitive bronze or copper chisels. Those tools would simply shatter. Yet, the blocks at Puma Punku are not carved. They appear to be fabricated. We find perfect 90-degree internal angles. We find grooves so precise they look like they were cut with a router. We find interlocking pieces that fit together like a puzzle. Most baffling of all, we find lines of impossibly small, perfectly uniform drill holes. How? How was this achieved by a Bronze Age culture? Mainstream archaeology suggests they used simple tools, sand, and a lot of time. This explanation is, to be blunt, an insult to the evidence. The precision at Puma Punku is not craftsmanship. It is machining. To achieve these cuts in andesite, you would need diamond-tipped tools and powered machinery. The H-blocks, all identical, suggest a form of mass production, a template. The complex internal cuts and interlocking designs suggest a purpose far beyond a simple temple. They look like components, parts of a larger, functioning machine. The local Aymara legends say Puma Punku was not built by their ancestors, but was created by the gods in a single night. This site is a graveyard of impossible components. If Baalbek's fingerprint was power, Puma Punku's is precision. A precision that is completely anachronistic. It is a technological signature that does not belong in 500 AD. It is the rubble of a technology we were never supposed to have. Our third site lies just a short distance away, in neighboring Peru. Overlooking the Inca capital of Cusco, the fortress of Saksaywaman stands guard. Officially, this is an Inca marvel, built around the 15th century. And the Incas were, without question, masters of stonework. But when you look closely, you see two vastly different building styles. On top, you see the classic Inca style, smaller, roughly shaped stones held together with mortar. But the foundation of these walls, this is something else entirely. This is polygonal megalithic construction, and it is a miracle. We are looking at boulders, not blocks. Massive, multi-angled stones, some weighing 100, 200 tons that fit together with no mortar and no logic. Each stone is unique. Each has 10, 12, 15 different angles. Yet they are locked together so perfectly that you cannot to this day slide a piece of paper or even a razor's edge between them. How was this done? The official theory is scribing and pounding. The idea that Inca builders would take a 100-ton boulder, lift it, pound it onto the stone below to leave an impression, then chip away at it with stone tools, and repeat this process thousands of times, perfectly, for every single stone. It strains credulity to the breaking point. The sheer logistics are baffling. How do you transport a 200-ton, awkwardly shaped boulder from a quarry miles away, up a mountain, and then place it with such gentle precision? But the how is not even the biggest mystery. The biggest mystery is the design. This jigsaw puzzle method is, functionally, the most earthquake-proof construction method ever invented. When a tremor hits, the stones dance and lock themselves tighter. Saksaywaman has survived centuries of devastating earthquakes that have leveled the city of Cusco, including the Spanish cathedrals, time and time again. The question is, how did the Inca, or whoever built this, know this? Was this a 700-year-old fortress, or was it a 12,000-year-old remnant of a civilization that understood seismic engineering? Local legends, again, are clear. The Inca did not build the foundation. They found it, and they built their fortress on top of it. Some researchers have proposed radical theories. Was a lost technology used to soften the stone? Did they use a chemical solvent, derived from plants, to make the stone's surface like putty, allowing them to mold a perfect fit? Or perhaps a sonic technology, using frequency to vitrify the surface. These theories are dismissed as fantasy, but they are no more fantastic than the idea of pounding a 200-ton stone into a perfect 12-angled fit. Saksaywaman is our third fingerprint. It is not power, not precision. It is the fingerprint of impossible technique and knowledge. Knowledge of geology and seismic engineering that, officially, shouldn't have existed. For our fourth site, we must leave the land and go beneath the waves. To the southernmost tip of the Japanese archipelago, to the island of Yonaguni. In 1986, a local dive operator, Kihachiro Aratake, was scouting for new hammerhead shark sites. What he found would rewrite history. 25 meters below the surface lies a massive, monolithic structure. It is 165 feet long and 65 feet wide. It is known as the Yonaguni Monument, and for decades, a fierce debate has raged. Is this a bizarre, spectacular natural formation? Or is it a sunken, man-made pyramid? Mainstream geologists are adamant. This is a natural phenomenon. They claim it is sandstone, which naturally shears in flat plains, and that the terraces and steps are simply the result of tectonic action and erosion. But when you look closer, the natural explanation begins to fall apart. Dr. Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist from the University of the Ryukyus, has spent over 20 years diving and mapping the site. He argues the natural theory is untenable. He has identified features that simply do not occur in nature. He points to a massive 20-foot grand staircase. He points to two 7-foot-tall standing stones, side by side, that look like a collapsed gateway. He points to what he calls the turtle, a massive, distinctly carved stone. He points to right-angle joins and formations that appear to be drains or channels. But the true impossibility of Yonaguni is not its construction, it is its age. If this structure is man-made, it must have been built when this area was above sea level. And that was before the end of the last ice age. Sea levels rose to their current height approximately 10,000 years ago. This means the Yonaguni monument would have to be, at a minimum, 10,000 to 12,000 years old. This is the very heart of our mystery. A 12,000-year-old, sophisticated, stone-built pyramid. This is 7,000 years before the first stones were laid at Giza. It is 6,000 years before the first civilization in Sumeria. This is why the debate is so fierce. To accept Yonaguni as man-made is to accept that a sophisticated, monument-building civilization existed before the Great Flood that ended the Ice Age. A civilization that history has completely erased. Yonaguni is our fourth fingerprint. It is the fingerprint of impossible antiquity. It is a smoking gun for an antediluvian, pre-flood world. For decades, the idea of a 12,000-year-old civilization, as suggested by Yonaguni, was pure fantasy. It was impossible. Why? Because history told us that 12,000 years ago, humanity was populated only by primitive hunter-gatherers. They could not build. They could not organize. They were small, nomadic bands. That was the story. Until 1994. In southern Turkey, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt began excavating a hill that locals called Göbekli Tepe, or Potbelly Hill. What he uncovered changed everything. He found this: a massive, complex temple built on a scale that is staggering. Dozens of T-shaped limestone pillars, weighing 10 to 20 tons each, arranged in sophisticated, circular enclosures. The pillars are not crude. They are intricately carved with high-relief images of animals and symbols. The construction is complex, involving quarrying, transport, and precise placement. But the most shocking discovery was its date. Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. This is not a theory. This is a fact. It is 7,000 years older than the pyramids of Giza. It is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. And here is the impossibility. It was built before the invention of agriculture. It was built before the invention of pottery. It was built before the invention of writing, or the wheel, or metal tools. It was built, according to the textbooks, by primitive hunter-gatherers. This site proves, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that our timeline of history is wrong. It proves that 12,000 years ago, human beings possessed the organization, the knowledge, and the engineering skill to build massive, complex, megalithic structures. Göbekli Tepe shatters the simple story. It proves the builders were present on Earth at the exact time the Yonaguni monument was being submerged. It provides the chronological anchor for all the other anomalies. It is our fifth and final fingerprint, the fingerprint of the origin. It is the proof of a sophisticated human presence, deep in the Ice Age. A presence that science is only just beginning to accept. So, what have we found? We are not just looking at 5 random, unconnected puzzles. We are looking at a pattern, a megalithic code written across the globe. Think of them as fingerprints of a single, lost civilization. Göbekli Tepe is the origin. It proves the builders existed 12,000 years ago, at the dawn of the Great Flood that ended the Ice Age. Yonaguni is the proof of that flood. A 12,000-year-old structure, drowned by the rising seas. A ghost of that antediluvian world. Saksaywaman is the knowledge. A seismic-proof design that speaks to a profound understanding of engineering, built to survive cataclysms. Puma Punku is the technology, a remnant of machine-like precision that does not fit any known timeline. Baalbek is the power, a display of raw, planet-moving capability, the ability to quarry and lift 1,600-ton stones that we would struggle to replicate even today. The official story of slow, linear progress is broken. The evidence is clear. A sophisticated global human civilization existed deep in our past. A civilization that was shattered by a cataclysm, the Great Flood that melts the Ice Age, and was almost entirely forgotten. What we call history is not the full story. It is only the story of our chapter, the chapter of the world that came after the flood. We are not looking at the work of primitive ancestors. We are looking at the legacy of our equals. The question is no longer if they existed. The question is, what other fingerprints did they leave behind? The exploration doesn't end here. We are zero-point lore, and our mission is to uncover the stories hidden in the margins of history. If you believe there is more to our past than we've been told, subscribe to join us on this journey. And we want to know what you think. Of these 5 sites, which one do you find the most compelling? And what other impossible megalithic sites should we investigate next? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Thank you for watching.